Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at this brand, XesRay, I don't know how to pronounce that. XesRay? It's not XesRay. I know it's not that, but Studio, Combatants, Fight for Glory, THALES the Shredder. It's a big Minotaur from a new IP, is basically what it is, and that's why I'm reviewing it. It looks cool, and I thought it would be fun to review, and you guys said you wanted to see it, so I'm reviewing it. If anybody actually knows, not just a guess, because I can guess, but if anybody actually knows for sure how you pronounce their name, let me know. It's spelled X-E-S space R-A-Y. The Ray part seems pretty straightforward. X-E-S, not so sure. Anyway, this thing looks freaking cool. I think it's gonna be freaking cool, and I wanted to show you. So let's go ahead and get it off the stand and take a closer look. Alright, before we look at the figure, I do want to show you my package. It's a nice package, standard square packaging, no weird shapes or sizes, just a big window in the front, shows the figure front and center. I like that. Color scheme is fine. It's almost like a cartoony, like, logo. Like, it looks like, to me, like the logo for a mobile game or a small indie game or something like that, video game. But I like it. It's a nice logo, and then you can see the figure there. No opening at the top for you inbox collectors, but I think you'll be able to see them well enough. There's a photo of the figure there, and then another photo on the back. Not the most high quality. I guess it's a little dark, but I mean, it's fine. It's whatever. It doesn't really matter. It's on the back. But then you get some lore back here. If you like lore, you can read that. And some more stuff back over here. Decent package. Nice quality overall. I just think that photo is a little bit dark and doesn't really show the figure off well, but it's fine. Okay, so I will mention this guy and his brother, the different color with the different horns and slightly different details. They're both available. They're in stock right now at Big Bad Toy Store. I'll put a link in the description below for this guy and his brother. I'll do you guys a favor. I'll put them both in there. I'm probably only going to get the one, but we'll see. I don't know. I might be persuaded by the end of this review. So let's get a height measurement. I do have, by the way, I have to mention this. Somebody mentioned this in my comments. I'm like, how did you know? I have his hooves on. That's an alternate part. He comes with human tootsies that go right here, and then he has just the regular legs, like plantigrade legs, but I have him digitigrade, I can't speak, with the hooves, because I don't like naked human tootsies. So anyway, he's a little bit taller like this, but I have him bent, so he's not that different. But either way, you get the idea. He stands to the top of his horns 26 centimeters, to the top of his head closer to 23.5. That's going to be about 9, let's say 9 3/8, and then 10 1/4, give or take. Here he is up against Darwin. Whole lot of size on him, clearly a whole bunch. And Marvel Select Cap is a lot bigger than Darwin, but still pales in comparison to Mr. I'm guessing it's THALES. I guess it could be pronounced THALES or something like that. I don't know. These are all new things, so who knows. And then McFarlane Batman. There you go. Good size to him. But yeah, I have him with his legs bent, but also extended, so it's hard to say for sure. Let's do a question of the day. I ask this all the time for new IPs, but I'm getting different viewers in different videos, so I'll ask it again. How do you guys feel about new IP? Do you like new IP? Do you dislike new IP? Do you not care as long as the figure's good? What is your take on it? For me, generally, I have to limit myself somehow, so I tend to avoid new IP unless it's really good, only because I don't have attachments to things that are new IP. So it's like, unless I can develop that attachment, which means it has to be really good, I have to limit myself somehow. So I have to stick to things I actually already care about. However, new IP that is good is one of my favorite things ever. So here's hoping that things like this turn into being like, not new IP, but just household names at some point. The more new IP that's good, the better, as far as I'm concerned. Okay, so let's talk about this guy. Aesthetically speaking, it's very reminiscent of a Storm figure in the aesthetic department. It isn't. It is very different in the actual engineering and whatnot, but you will get a lot of that vibe from this guy. I love the sculpt direction they went with. They have a very, very good profile for the, or silhouette I should say, for the anatomy. Very nice. I love the big chest, the high shoulder, like it looks exactly the way you want to. I think they did a great job. This is a hard thing to do. They did a great job marrying this sort of neck with it, like a bull basically, a bull head and neck to human anatomy. That's difficult. Dinosaurs are very hard too. Bulls, for instance, because they're not shaped like humans. So to take this up and slap it onto a human body. Difficult to pull off. I think they did a really good job, especially from the front. Looks nice from the side. It's a little bit less good. It ends up looking weird because the shoulders look relatively low compared to this whole long neck and everything, but there's really not much you can do because, as you can see, the shoulders are not low on this guy at all. So yeah, I think they did a good job with that. I will note, and I'll move on from the anatomy in a second here, when you add the hooves on, it extends the legs, and it does, like, you want to bend the legs too to make it work, because that's how I cannot speak today, digitigrade legs work, but it does maybe make the arms look a little short. I don't mind it personally because he's a bull, so I don't mind the shorter arms in general, and I don't mind it. I think the arms could use to be a little bit longer, but then it would look weird with the human feet. So I think they probably hit a good sweet spot there, but I think you might find people saying his arms look short. I don't mind personally, or as a reviewer, I think it's reasonable, but you could hear that argument, and now you probably have a better idea why. But yeah, the anatomy is really nice, the musculature is good, the sculpt work is good, I love the way they have the pecs. You don't often see this, and I'll take a minute to talk about it, just because, like I said, you don't often see it. You don't get this right here, this shelf of pec muscle that you can hit with your finger. Oftentimes, you just get it smoothed out. Now, Darwin's obviously not a great example. It's one of the skinniest bodies they've ever made, but it's basically just flush. There's a little dip, but not much. This really makes a figure look like he has pecs, rather than just sculpted details in the general shape of muscles. So I like that. There's a lot of meat right here where it dips in, and then you get the lats back here. Looks very nice. I am pleased with the sculpt overall. And then we have the sculpted detail for all of the armor, which, as you probably noticed already, very, very nicely detailed. Lots of sculpt work going on there. Alright, very cool. We have a plastic chain here. This is probably technically removable if you wanted to pull them apart. I don't believe it's intended to be removed, by the way. You do get some fur type stuff down here, which you know is not my cup of tea. But it's okay. It's used very tastefully, I'll say, so that's alright. But yeah, you can remove this kind of stuff. This one probably not as easily, but this one you just pop the hands off and you can remove the gauntlets. You can also remove these wraps if you want to. These ones are sculpted on, but these ones come off if you want to also. So that's pretty cool. And this thing, since we're talking about the aesthetic, this thing is permanent onto this, so you have to remove the whole thing if you want to remove this, or break it, I guess. But yeah, I think it looks really good. I'll show you one last bit before we move on, and that's the face. I think they nailed it. The shading throughout the whole thing is good, but the shading on the horns is pretty uniform. I like that. The red eyes, they look really good. You know, maybe they could use to be a little deeper red or something like that, but that's purely preference. You know, it's still good, and it's well painted. And then the mouth does articulate, which you could talk about in the articulation section, but it's also an aesthetic thing. They did a really good job articulating that. The teeth work nicely, it's painted well inside. Yeah, I think this looks really good, and maybe I will end up getting his brother. I don't like the brother's horn style as much. That's, again, purely preference. But yeah, I think it looks really good. So from an aesthetic standpoint, it's only $90, which only $90. Yeah, okay, I get it. That's still a lot of money, but in the world of high-end collectibles, that's not a lot of money at all. That's 3 Marvel Legends, roughly. I mean, depending on which ones. So, like, to me, that's well worth it. Well worth it. It's an easy justification for that price if you're collecting action figures. So yeah, aesthetically, I'll go 9 out of 10. Little things here and there you might be able to touch up, but maybe even higher, 9.5. It's pretty darn good. Now, as far as accessories go, I already mentioned he does come with the interchangeable feet. It tells you to heat them up to swap them. I didn't have to at all. In fact, I think they could be a little bit tighter, but do what the instructions tell you. But you get the interchangeable feet. It's a good sculpt. I just don't like human feet, especially on an animal like this, so that's whatever. For hands, he comes with the 2 gripping hands, but you get 2 fist hands and 2 open hands also. That's very nice. And then you do also get his battle axe, which, very nicely done. Good plastic. It's a little bit soft-ish, but not too bad. I think that's actually only at the bottom handle part. So, does that pop off? I don't think it does. No. So yeah, it's a really nice looking accessory, very well painted. That's it. Nothing super elaborate, but that's definitely going to be enough to get you on your way. So, for the price, given the rest of the figure and the amount of accessories, I'll go, I think, 9 out of 10. You don't really need an alternate head. Maybe another weapon or something would be cool, but I think he's well well kitted, as they might say. Okay, let's talk about the articulation, which is going to be an interesting thing because he's a chunky fellow, and I've heard some people say it's great, and other people say, yeah, well, he doesn't pose, but he looks cool. So, the head is on a double ball peg. It's a little bit loose, but not floppy, so that's okay. I do think they could have squeaked out a lot more, so no squeaking. Loudly created more range. It's fine, there's no gapping at all as is, and the double ball pegs do let him lean and rotate and do everything you want, but considering that there's no gapping at all, I think you can cut away more plastic and just let people choose if they want the gapping, because I would like to be able to lean him over more and lift his head up more, for instance. Going down is pretty much fine, side to side is pretty much fine, but I'd like to let him look up just a little more, and I think they could have probably done that. For the shoulders, we do have a butterfly joint in here, I believe. I can't say for sure because I haven't pulled this figure apart, and I'm probably not going to at 90 bucks. It feels to me like this whole butterfly chunk, this guy right in here, is connected with a ball peg somewhere down in the lat area, I think, because it does move forward and back, and you can see it kind of wants to go at an angle, and I can rock it a little bit up and down, and that could just be wiggle, it could be play, it's hard to say. It does pull forward pretty well. Okay, well now we can see it pulled off. It's a double ball peg, and I was wrong, it's not down here, it's in here. Okay, well it's a double ball peg that pulls off if you go too far. Didn't break, that's a good thing. Let's see if we can get it back together easily. Because I was just trying to use the butterfly as someone might. Okay, it pops on easily, that's nice. It's good PVC they're using, I want to mention. It's soft, but not too soft. So I don't know about that double ball peg setup for the butterfly. It's not terrible, but as you can see, it didn't take too much for me to pop it off. So that's about the max you can get, which is okay, but it also, as a result, doesn't go very far back either. It looks like it would have a lot more range than it does, and now I know why. I thought it was just because plastic was hitting, but it's because of that double ball peg. Interesting design. I don't think I would ever go with something like that. It's just too limited. You'd have to really, really play with that to get it to work right. I mean, in the design stage. As it is, it's just a butterfly with a little bit of extra wiggle. It's okay. Alright, for the shoulder, ball hinge shoulder. The soft PVC in here allows the arm to just flex up, no problem. So that's good. Offset biceps. Some people love that, some people don't. It allows him to bring his arms down better, down to the side, but you do end up with a lump here, and you can argue it looks like the lat's tucking in. I don't know, that's kind of a preference thing. It's okay, it's fine, but it does let him bring his arms down to the side better, so that's alright. Full rotation this way, of course, that's fine. You know, his joints have a nice smooth feel to them. I think that's because of the softer PVC, and then you have probably nylon like for the disc in there pegging in. They are borderline loose. Not loose, but just a little bit. You'll see if you get one. It feels like, well, it's a little slippery, but it works fine so far. It might even be palm. That might be why it feels that way. Hard to say. Alright, butterfly, or bicep swivel is fine. You get a single jointed elbow, which I know some people hate. Some people love, but that's what you get, and it will rotate at the elbow and at the bicep, so a little bit of extra range if you want it. Ball hinge wrists, they work pretty well. With the gauntlets on, it kind of gets in the way, but that's just the nature of articulation, so that's fine. Alright, then for the torso, I don't know if it's a double. I'm guessing it's a double ball peg in here, single ball peg at the bottom. He leans back nicely. Good sculpt, I love the way they did the sculpt. I'll talk about this briefly. I get a lot of people talking to me about articulation because I talk about it a lot, saying it's best to cut it right under the pecs or to go down to the full rib cage, or people come up with different ideas and things. I think rib cage is the best call, but not maybe fully anatomically correct rib cage. I think they pretty much nailed it. Just below the pecs, somewhere around like the first abdominal muscle sort of thing, and then bringing it around close to the rib cage, but then probably not going all the way down. Basically the way they did it is a pretty good look. Leans back nicely. Leans forward, well enough. It's not a ton, but it's definitely enough, and it looks good. Very nice sculpt all the way around. And then leaning side to side on this guy. It's pretty good. This thing gets in the way a lot. I'd actually like to be able to remove this without tearing the figure in half and hoping I don't break anything. But yeah, it's a soft piece. This is PVC, by the way, a few different pieces. So yeah, his torso works pretty well, and of course you're going to get your rotation out of that, and out of the bottom one too. So yeah, it works well. This, I would like to see this be a lot smaller, just as an option. Like maybe if it was separate pieces that you could actually choose which ones you want to use. You know, just pop them off and pull out the cloth or whatever, but it still works pretty well. For the hips, let's get on to the hips. Big old ball sockets in there, and they go out to the side. basically all the way. So full on range there, no problem at all. It's not loose yet, doesn't feel like it will be, but we'll see. Going forward, not all the way, doesn't kick all the way forward. Ignore this part. Look at the leg. But probably good enough, and maybe it would be better if this wasn't here. It feels like it might get tighter as you play with it, as opposed to looser, so be aware that it might need some shock oil at some point. Decent range going back, though, so that's good. I will say thigh swivel is very loose. Very loose, don't care for that. For the knees, good range. Not the best looking thing in the world, but definitely good enough. Good range, good proportioning, by the way. If you had his human feet on there, it'd be where you want it to be. And I think that's why it looks a little bit weird when you add this extra, rather than just adding the part down there. Well, I guess you really have no choice but to do it this way. Generally speaking, if you want to do digitigrade legs, you probably want to make the thighs a little bit longer and shorten this a little bit, but it really is, for mythical creatures especially, personal preference. But yeah, you'll see the proportioning looks weird because I've added this chunk. With the foot, it looks good, so that's fine. Good knees, good proportioning. No swivel here because this is just a floating piece that sits on top, but you do get your swivel hinge down here, and then you get a ball hinge in the hoof. Hoof? Hoof. It's hoof, and then hooves. I know how to use words. It's a little bit looser than I would like, but it doesn't have too much of a... like, once you balance him, he's okay. Definitely with the human foot, it's fine. With the hooves, they're smaller, and they could be a little bit tighter, so you end up with some issues. But he does stand up, so no real big deal there. I think that's fine. So, articulation on this guy, is it perfect? No. Is it perfectly acceptable? Absolutely. I think without a doubt. For all of the paint and sculpt you get with accessories and at the price point, I don't think you really could complain about what's going on here. It could be better, but it's definitely fine. So I'll give him a 7.5 for articulation. It should be good enough to pose. It's a little bit tricky to balance him on his little feet, but I don't like human feet, so that's just the way it goes. And you can choose to do whatever you want. So, okay, time for the final verdict on this guy. Long review, new IP, new brand, new type of figure. Have to spend some time talking about it. Excellent first show. Well, it's not really their first showing. Excellent first showing for my channel. I haven't looked at their other stuff yet, but they have released other stuff, I believe. Should be out already, right? Like the littler characters. Anyway, it's an excellent release. Good price point, I think, for the size, no doubt. Quality is there. I would prefer a few joints be tighter, but otherwise, I'm happy to own it. I will be keeping this one in my collection unless I end up needing to pay for food or something and have to sell stuff. But it's a good one for sure. I'm gonna give it an overall rating of 9 out of 10. I like it a whole bunch. If you're into this sort of thing, pick it up. There's a link in the description below. Get yourself one. There's the orange-brown colored, his brother. I think he's more orange than brown, but I don't remember. That's an alternative option if you don't like the black one, or get both. I may end up getting both. They're pretty darn cool. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, but that's it from me. So thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. And if you haven't subscribed, you should. I have new videos every day but Wednesday, and sometimes Wednesday, and thousands of videos already on the channel. I almost said thousands of channels. I don't have that many channels. Just the one. Anyway, come back for all of that good stuff, and in the meantime, keep collecting.